welcome back to Wizard Jail. The final... I'm going to miss that music, I think, most of all.
Yeah.
As we now run into the eighth and final episode of Wizard Jail, a Visionaries reread podcast? Like, question mark, exclamation, question mark. I am Patrick Ripoll.
And I'm Gabe Powers.
And we have been, in our own slow, methodical way that makes sense to us, slowly been working our way through the 13-episode run of the 1987 Sunbow toy commercial cartoon Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light. The previous 7 episodes, which I'm sure you all listened to, we covered the cartoon. This is the last 60 pages of Return of the King. This is the appendix. We're doing some cleanup work because there's more Visionary stuff than just that cartoon.
And we're doing this in person. I'm in Chicago.
That's true.
And
yes.
It's really strange because Patrick keeps making eye contact.
I'm making eye contact. These
and
are
I'm used to staring off into space.
Yes, I was wondering what was happening. I have a podcast, 96 Greers, that I record in person with my co-host, and I'm very used to big energy, high eye contact. This is not the way me and Gabe usually work. We do not have our video on while we do the podcast. I think sometimes I'm just lying on the ground with my covering my eyes, and I'm like, oh God, it's that episode where Leoric's trapped as a lion. Visionaries. This was a show that they were trying to turn into. They were hopeful. You kind of get the feeling, and I think we've talked about this in previous episodes. It should be said, we recorded all of our 7 previous episodes a long time ago.
Yeah.
Possibly a year ago?
It's getting close.
It's getting close to an entire year.
I know a way we can actually measure it, but it's dark.
There's so many interesting ways to measure time now. How many war crimes have we forgotten about?
No, I mean, there really was an event that made me not edit it that I haven't been talking about. Oh,
goodness. Okay, then. Well, I think we could probably just keep moving. let the listeners speculate on that one. So we are a little loopy and a little bit like, that's right, we fucking tied our fortunes to this stupid cartoon. I think we talked about, but again, it's been a very long time since we recorded, so I'm not 100% sure, but I believe we have mentioned that you get the vibe as you watch this show that they understood this wasn't the next G.I. Joe almost immediately.
Yeah.
And any plans for this to be like a major multimedia property was sort of abandoned early on.
Yeah.
However, at some point, someone at Sunbow thought that this could be a big deal, combined sci-fi and magic. It's got built-in toy stuff. This could be a big deal for us. So they, as part of this media blitz, they partnered up with their old friends Marvel. Marvel had helped create G.I. Joes and Transformers with them.
And they did. And then Marvel actually produced some Sunbow cartoons too, I believe.
Yeah, I think this was the first. My understanding is that Visionaries is the first Sunbow cartoon they did without Marvel's help.
Yeah.
But they still went to their old friends Marvel and said, hey, how about a comic book? And there are 6 issues of Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light that were produced over the course of 1987. It ends on a cliffhanger. The 6th issue, they're like part of a 4-part arc of them trying to, doing their fetch quest, and they get 2 of the 4 items, and then you just get a little editor's note in the last page that says, "But that mystery will stay a mystery forever. Sorry." But we did read the comics. We found some scans of the comics. These are not available like on Marvel Unlimited, or anything like that. I guess technically Marvel Unlimited probably aren't going to pay for the licensing of anything they don't own outright. Yeah. So I would imagine that you're not going to find like the G.I. Joe or Transformers comics on there either.
And all that stuff is technically owned by IDW now.
Right.
Which comes up later. But yeah, IDW has Transformers and G.I. Joe and He-Man.
Unlike a Star Wars, which probably you can have Star Wars comics on a service like that.
Yeah, because Marvel had the original Star Wars comics and they currently make their own Star Wars comics.
But so these, we had to track down some sketchy looking scans. These were well-loved comic books, let's say. Well-loved floppies that these were scanned from. So Gabe, you're more of a comics person than I am. You're definitely more knowledgeable about like this era of comic books, this era of Marvel and stuff like that. My initial feeling reading the Visionaries comics, which I did first before we started the podcast, and then just now in the past 2 days I reread the 6 issues. My feeling is like, oh God, these look like crap. These are terrible looking. Is this how would you describe where this sits among comic book quality of 1987?
I would say for a 1987, this is the lower rung stuff for sure.
Okay.
I had to double check. I'm not as much of a comic guy as maybe Patrick's making me sound, but
I mean, compared to me,
yeah,
among the two of us,
but Secret Wars had happened at this point, the original Secret Wars. So there was space for bigger ideas in comics by this time. They weren't just aimed at children; they were still mostly aimed at children. I think the writing of these is fine, but yeah, the art is, I think, probably even for the time a little subpar. It looks like it was rushed. It looks like it was printed wrong. A lot of the colors are not consistent.
I couldn't tell if the color bleed past the lines was just sort of the source that it was scanned from.
It must be. I hope so.
Because you get a lot of like when I was a kid coloring books with my shaky ass hands, I would get outside the lines all the time, and that's kind of what it looks like in this comic book. It is the classic. It's 1987, so it's classic 4-color, super garish primary colors. All of the issues with the cartoon are exacerbated in terms of if you thought it was hard to remember who was who, when they all had distinct voice actors, when they all look the same and they all have very bright, not very nuanced colors of their costumes, and you don't get the benefits of being voiced by different people. They all have same text in all their bubbles. I don't know what this would have been like at all if you had not seen the cartoon. I don't know how you'd be able to follow some of this stuff.
Yeah, like Leoric, for example, is sometimes a brunette like he is in the show, and sometimes a blonde in these.
Yeah. There's some weird inconsistency with that. So anyway, I do want to say real quick. So this episode, we're going to talk mostly about the comics. We are going to quickly also talk about the action figures, but we're kind of starting with the comics here. The weird thing to me, and this is maybe further evidence that very early on, everyone involved got the word that this wasn't actually going to be a thing. Almost immediately, the 6 issues of the comic book decide to just build their own mythology. There's some minor changes in terms of they don't have to recharge their powers at Merklin's. They can just use their powers again and again. Certain things in terms of how their powers manifest there's a distinction and a difference.
They don't maintain the color like they do in the cartoon. So if a guy comes out as a fox, he's not a orange fox or whatever. He's just a fox.
But then as you get to issue 3 and on, they are just entirely wholly invented stories, not inspired by the cartoon at all. And sometimes what they're doing in those stories directly conflicts with the cartoon in a way that's if you wanted this to be an ongoing sort of living world, you would not do this. But if you are just sort of I guess we're on the contract for 3 more of these things, let's just crank them out, let's have fun with it, then you would probably do this. So let's talk about the people who made Visionaries Knights of the Magical Light for Marvel Comics. This is mostly the same group of people, so I'm going to work my way through the 6 issues of the comic. Though I should also say we are also going to talk about a late development in Visionaries media, which is IDW released a miniseries called Transformers versus Visionaries. So that comes, what year does that come out?
2014, I think.
2014. So that comes out a good 17 years after, no, even more than that. That's 27 years after these comic books. Someone basically does some fan fiction. So we'll talk about that briefly. But for the 6-issue run on Marvel Comics, these are mostly all the same crew. When I get to an issue where someone new steps in, I'll give you their information. But for right now, we have Visionaries #1 with the writer Jim Salicrup, when I looked up his CV, it was mostly like the lowest rung fucking Marvel stuff you can imagine. He did something like Astounding X-Men Go to the Texas Rodeo or something like that. Like that had to be some kind of promotional item. He mostly wrote on Spidey Super Stories, which was an Electric Company tie-in. Because Spider-Man was a recurring character on the Sesame Street spinoff.
I can't remember.
Electric Company?
Yeah, let's just say spinoff. It might have just been also a thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. Same sort of
It was,
idea.
if you don't remember, and there's good reason you might, because it does not have the same cultural legacy. Electric Company was an attempt to sort of like capture the excitement of Sesame Street for a slightly older demographic.
Yeah.
And they had Spider-Man occurring, and there'd be like little comic book panels he was in. And that was popular enough that there was a separate just for kids Spider-Man line called Spidey Super Stories. He wrote a lot on that. He did write for Transformers and Humanoids. So those are both some Sunbow properties. Later on, he's going to write for Captain Planet. His whole career is just kind of like didn't quite end up where you want it to be. But thank you, Jim Salicrup, for your contributions nonetheless. Pencils are done by Mark Bagley. I do want to ask real quick, Gabe, do people still credit pencils?
It depends. Sometimes it will say art, which means they did everything. Sometimes it will say art and then colors will be separate. A lot of people now draw comics on tablets.
Right.
So a lot of them do all their own everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that you do still get a pencils every once in a while.
Well, this is because it's 1987. We have pencils, inks, letters, and colors.
Yeah.
Those are all
letters still get a credit too.
That's
strangely enough.
I am shocked that in the contemporary world of comics that they have not just yet switched to some fonts.
And I honestly don't know the answer to that, and I've wondered that myself, and I should have looked it up.
It might be people. We keep the gas station attendants in New Jersey to pump your gas, so to create jobs.
And if you think about it, it's like action stuff is sometimes separate. So like the action word, like bam or whatever, or blammo or whatever. Yeah, I
mean, you know, in the medium of comics, like the way text looks and the way it is spaced and what accents where the bolds and italics are, those are meaningful expressions.
Yeah.
So it is better that it is done by humans. I'm just so cynical that I'm shocked it's still done by humans.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have pencils, inks, letters, and colors for the Visionaries. Pencils is done by Mark Bagley. He did the pencils for all 6 issues. He would go on to do a lot of Captain America, RoboCop 2. He did a bunch of New Warriors, and then he is probably best known for Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was the Spider-Man guy for a little while.
Is this before or after Todd McFarlane?
This, I believe, was after. I think he was one of the guys who replaced McFarlane, because McFarlane didn't actually do it that long. He maybe a couple years or something. They're awful looking.
I think when you look at like the careers that some of the folks who worked on Visionaries had, the comics Visionaries had, you can kind of see like these are talented people, and probably the quality of the comic book is more a result of them not having a lot of time to crank them out.
I think they say bi-monthly in the letters section. I think that they mention it's a bi-monthly.
So like
Which
spread
means
across
twice
the year.
a week? Or does that mean...
No, I think it's the other way around. I think it's every 2 months. The thing to remember about Visionaries is that it was syndicated, so it's not like they were syncing up to a big national network debut. Where it played when is kind of like up in the air depending on what networks decided to pick it up.
That was another thing, the letters.
Oh, it turns out bi-monthly can mean either.
Oh, so I don't know.
Very helpful. I guess we could look at the covers and find out, but I don't want to.
I don't have the covers.
At any rate, talented people worked on this, and it doesn't show. A lot of the layouts are good, but then like there's no detail to the world. Like the thing we've always talked about on this show is like Prismos is like the most interesting part of this show. Like all the weird details you get about the world, and all of these fights, and it's mostly fights, take place in just like big, brightly colored voids.
Voids, yep.
Without a lot of that detail that the TMS animation team were able to get into the cartoon. But Mark Bagley, obviously very well respected in his career, in his industry, more for what he did after this than what he did in 1987. Inks were done by Romeo Tangal. He did the inks for issues 1 through 4 and 6. Issue 5 had a different artist, but he mostly worked with DC before this. He did a lot of different, just like, didn't have any long runs on DC. He just did a bunch of different books for DC. He also did character designs and storyboards for Sunbow Entertainment from 1985 to 1987. So he already had that affiliation. It is possible that he designed some of these characters, and these like horrible looking football players are his fault. Thank you, Romeo Tangle. Letters by Janice Chiang. She did the letters for all the issues. She started in 1975. She is still lettering, mostly for Marvel. She has gotten awards for her lettering to the extent that people who do lettering get awards. As far as I can tell, very well respected, and has just constantly been working since the mid-70s. Colors were done by Juliana Ferriter. She did the colors for all 6 issues. She worked with DC and Marvel. She did about like 42 issues of Star Trek: The Next Generation. That was kind of like the thing she mostly was known for. Her career was only about 10 years long, from like the mid-80s to the mid-90s. The editor of Visionaries was Bob Budiansky. Can you tell me what is an editor's job for a comic book?
See, it's hard to say for Visionaries because, I mean, I think it would have been just proofreading and stuff, because usually the editor was the one who got involved with the whole publishing aspect. And the big thing that happened in comics is because comics have, Marvel and DC have their own interlocking universes, editorial would have to get involved and say, oh, you can't have Spider-Man in New York this week because he's in space.
So the editor is the one who's keeping track of
some of that stuff.
Well,
yeah.
And the thing about the comic books that's different from the cartoon is the cartoon in the first half lightly and then a little more heavily, and the second half of the cartoon is serialized. Like things that happen in one episode are still important in the next episode, even if they have their own sort of separate plots. And a lot of the comic book, until the final 2 issues, which are half of an aborted arc, there's basically no continuity. Every issue is complete, which is strange because comic books, it's the opposite. You would think Saturday morning cartoons, it's for syndication. You don't know what order it's going to be aired in. So just fucking make sure every episode is a self-contained thing. Comic books have a very long tradition of serialized storytelling. In this case, the comic books are less serialized, I think, than the cartoon. So anyway, Bob Budiansky, he was a Marvel editor starting in the mid-70s. He has a lot of credits for Ghost Rider and Transformers. So that's kind of what I associated with him. Issue 1 of Visionaries, it's like a big, giant size, like 38-page instead of the 24-page issue. It is just beat for beat.
Except for the very, very beginning.
The beginning's a little different. The first episode of the cartoon. How is the beginning different, Gabe?
The beginning's different because we get to see more of the end of the world. Mm-hmm. And we get to see it from Merklin's point of view, which answers a really important question that we keep having, is that what is Merklin's deal? He talks about this ancient time, and so we keep asking, was there always magical things, or did magical things only spring up as soon as the 3 suns aligned and the age of technology ended? Well, we find out from this opening that there was an age of magic that ended, became the age of technology, which is their modern day, and now it has ended again. And Merklin is apparently ancient, and he comes and he goes to, like, I think it's a restaurant. It's like a robot.
It's very weird because Merklin is like, I have to tell humanity that the age of science is about to end. I better just enter a random ass restaurant.
And it also seems like he just wants a good view.
Oh, okay, actually, it's not a random ass restaurant. It's the restaurant on Iron Mountain.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
so he's been hiding downstairs for hundreds of years.
He has been the downstairs neighbor of the restaurant. Quiet. We never see the guy. We know he lives there. He gets mail.
He pays rent.
He pays rent. But there is technically a tenant living in the basement of the restaurant that we never see. And he just sort of comes up one day and is like, "You're all doomed." And then there's just like a robot, Mater D, who's just sort of like, "Sir? I don't know what doomed means."
Sir, are you okay? You feeling good?
He gives him a sobriety test.
Yeah.
Merklin saves the building from collapsing off the side of Iron Mountain, and then, which is weird, it kind of sets him up like, oh, Merklin is going to be an important character. Merklin way less important in the comics than he is in the cartoons.
Yeah.
He, until the final 2 issues, he only ever appears as like a vision on the side of a mountain or something like that. He is not really appearing in the flesh ever.
He's not giving him a bunch of jobs to do like in the cartoon.
Right.
Not until the end.
I think the comic book people found that boring or whatever.
Yeah, but I would imagine.
If you're wondering what happens in Visionaries #1, you should listen to our episode about the first episode of the cartoon, because it really is basically the same thing. The only other thing I wanted to mention is there is no splash page for the moment where finally all the Visionaries and the Darkling Lords fight each other. It is just a tiny panel crammed with 14 bodies, and it's like, oh man, this comic book's gonna suck. We now get to Visionaries number 2. Most of the same people who worked on number 1 are here. Though at this point, Jim Salicrup, who was the writer of issue number 1, he is only credited with the plot. And the writer of Visionaries number 2 through 6 is Jerry Conway. So the rest of the series is going to be written by Jerry Conway. He worked a bunch, Marvel, NDC, 1969, he wrote a lot of Justice League of America, a lot of Superman and Thor, and I was like putting these notes together, and Gabe was like, I think you missed the most important thing about him. And I was like, what's that?
Oh, well, so he invented the Punisher.
He's the inventor of the Punisher.
And he also wrote the Night Gwen Stacy Died, which is a Spider-Man story that we've been retelling forever. Mm-hmm. He's a big deal. The reason I knew those two things, but what I didn't know, and he just died, is the reason that he was on my mind. He died in April. Mm-hmm. And so when we're recording this in June, all of the new Marvel comics open with a page that's an homage to him and says some of the other stuff he did. But yeah, they don't mention Visionaries. They don't mention Visionaries. And that's why I was so shocked that he did it, because what I was thinking is that, this must have been early in his career. But I'm like, wait a minute, he invented the Punisher. That was like the late 60s. So you'd think that this is like someone like, Grant Morrison, his first writing gig was on Visionaries, but then, the 90s happened, right, and he became... this is a guy who was already an A-lister. That's kind of like Mark Bagley. He did Visionaries and then went on to become important. This is a guy who was already important, Jerry Conway. It was just crazy to me, and I couldn't believe it. But yes, so Jerry Conway's a big deal. He... I think the flexible nature of the world of Prismos and the property means that you can toss off a script like that. Like, this is such comic book loaf. Yeah. Like, every plot is the most like it's a comic book ass thing happens. I would imagine that Jerry Conway sat down in a corner booth, in a dark booth in his favorite restaurant, and he just had a bunch of scotch and he cranked out 5 scripts and was just sort of like, there we go. This is interesting. I didn't know this. He co-wrote Fire and Ice, which I'm reviewing right now. Like when I get back home, I have to watch it. The Frank Frazetta animated thing. Yeah. The what's his name? Ralph Bakshi movie? Yeah. That's based on Frank Frazetta thing. And he did Conan the Destroyer. So in the 80s, maybe that's the way he got it. Maybe he's like, you're writing those fantasy stuff, movie scripts. And then apparently he was a consulting producer for the Hercules series and an executive producer for the failed Huntress series, and apparently a co-executive producer on Law and Order: Criminal Intent. All right, man. So he's just a guy he's just like, hire me, I'll write you some shit. And he's good. It'll be Visionaries. It'll be the most important Spider-Man comic. It'll be Law and Order. I'm a writer. The Law and Order that lasted the least amount of time, but I was gonna say along the lines of Frank Frazetta and fantasy stuff. Some of the plot lines in these later issues are going to revolve around like treacherous babes. But lest you think that this is a male-oriented, like male-gazy kind of a comic, the men in this there are so many shots of men wearing only their underwear, or sometimes nothing at all. Later on, we'll get to an issue where you just get a full side nude of a man. And I took a couple screen caps here. These are some hunky hunks. Virilina, Galadria, they do not get these kind of cheesecake shots, but the men, they get the beefcake shots. So I did appreciate that. Visionaries number 2 picks up immediately after the first issue, just like the second episode of the comic. The cartoon picks up immediately after the first episode of the cartoon, and it has the same starting point where once they all leave Iron Mountain with their powers, they just start fighting each other. Yep. And then they're like, you know what? This isn't going to do any good. Let's call a truce for now, and we'll just sort of regroup and figure out what we're going to do with these powers. And then much like the second episode of the cartoon, 2 of the Darkling Lords who didn't get staffs realize that they have the power to operate vehicles. The vehicles are different in this. Well, they're the same vehicles, but in the show, they'd find them in a junkyard. That's right. This time we have a hot guy in a yellow Speedo who's like this blacksmith who's just like making tanks for fun. I'm trying to remember what his name is. I wrote it down.
I guess I said there's no continuity in this, but we also, the start of issue number 3 also involves this hunky blacksmith.
Harkon. His name's Harkon.
Thank you, Harkon, for your work. Harkon,
and he had just made these things, and then the Age of Magic came, and he's like, "Oh, it's just junk."
Yeah, not a character in the cartoon. They're already inventing like important.
It's way better that Harkon made these things, though. Like in the cartoon, they literally find it in a junkyard.
Yeah,
it's just some stuff.
Right. You would think they would have
makes more sense.
It definitely does.
I like this better.
Mortrid takes one of the vehicles out for a joyride, attacks the Visionaries. It doesn't go well. I've already forgotten who's the main bad guy for the Darkling Lords.
Darkstorm.
Darkstorm gets mad, throws him in jail. That's how that issue ends. It's kind of none of these are particularly good, but the first 2 are kind of hamstrung by being tied to the cartoon, but not able to do the things the cartoon
and they
does.
don't have the super weird homosexual energy between the 2 of them.
The first issue does make a lot of bootlicking jokes, but after that, he is just a sycophant without that Waylon Smithers undertone.
Yeah.
Issue 3, we get to our first all original script written by Jerry Conway. This is a very good idea for a story, this is also like the classic, like, my understanding of Spider-Man is that Spider-Man is constantly like, what if I reversed it and I was no longer Spider-Man? Yeah. This is the classic thing but we're already at like issue 3 saying
there's like 30 X-Men where there's a cure for mutants and half the mutants are like, maybe I want to be cured because I blow up every 5 hours, and the other mutants are like, no, you have to be true to yourself.
So through a series of events, they discover that there is a weapon of mass destruction that will send the world back to the age of technology and banish the age of magic. But it's a massive change to happen, and they're not sure if they could really accept all the consequences that would go along with that. So eventually Leoric, with his power of wisdom, says, let's not. And then they go, okay, let's not. But it's like, it's the way it's all talked about, it is very much a Cold War nuclear anxiety allegory, which, 1987, this is like the most well-worn territory possible, even for comic books, even for media aimed at children. But it is fairly well done.
I mean, thinking into it too much, the idea that Jerry Conway was a liberal by all accounts, and that what's the guy who wrote Visionaries? Flint Dill. Flint Dill is a conservative. Like there's probably like a really interesting PhD thesis in there that you will not get a PhD for writing.
No, they're gonna. I'm sorry, you have to pick something that means something. You can't just write about bullshit you liked when you were 7. That's not what a PhD is. But yes, there's definitely a harder. There's less of the might makes right fascist overtones of the cartoon in the comic book, and this is definitely a nuclear disarmament tale. Visionaries number 4, we get our first treacherous babe. This is the one where it is Witterquick and Sindar. For whatever reason, the people who made the comics love Sindar.
Sindar is not an idiot in the comics.
That's right.
He doesn't talk stupid. Like he doesn't talk like a caveman. They have none of his loving animals thing, but maybe that would have come up if they would have had more issues.
He is super strong and has a capacity for empathy in this issue.
Yeah.
So there's just something about Sindar. Like, I think Lexor maybe gets 4 lines of dialogue the entire. Kravex is not the beloved shrieking maniac.
Kravex gets hardly anything to do in the comics. It's too bad.
But Witterquick and Sindar are both...
Who was Sindar put with one of the Darkling Lords when they had an... and he ended up being the nice one who decided not to kill the unicorn.
Yeah, that was the unicorn.
It was the cowardly
dragon
one.
Wings.
Yeah, he was anyway.
But Sindar appears in like half of the issues as like one of the main characters. So... for whatever reason, they really latched on to Sindar. Maybe they thought in a longer run they would eventually, everyone would get their turn.
Maybe they saw that he had gray hair and a beard, and they thought he was the smart one because he was wise.
Yeah.
Instead of being an idiot with
really
a gray hair
could
and beard.
be. The funny thing is the IDW takes that interpretation of Sindar. Sindar specifically later on in Visionaries vs. Transformers cited as the smart Darkling Lord. At any rate, they are both summoned by a witch who is imprisoned in a mountain to fetch a gemstone that will set her free. They're both visited in their dreams. They're not told about each other, and so they are sort of competing to free this sexy babe who is seducing them.
Against the will of both of their parties. Like, no one in the the Darkling Lords and the Spectral Knights are not. They're like, why are you wasting your time? Both of them are.
And there is also like a dream god who is trying to make sure that she stays locked up in this mountain, who is fighting them both.
But he looks scary, so they assume he's a bad guy.
Right. This is probably the best issue of the comic, because there's also the subplot about the warlord, who they sort of, in stealing the gem, they step into his territory and he gets mad. And then all of the villagers that have to pay him tribute are like, hey, why aren't you doing anything about these invaders? I thought that's what we pay you tribute for. And he's like, shut up. And obviously he's no match for the Darkling Lord's Visionary, so they hand him his ass. The sexy babe encased in the mountain has like a super deep V jumpsuit that goes down to her belly button. But in one of Witterquick's dreams, he's approached by a vision of her, and he is fully naked, and you get full side ass
and like side groin. Like I got a picture of it.
Let's zoom in. Let's really zoom in.
You know what?
I
just realized these are in the same issue.
Which ones?
You have in the same issue we're talking about. You have Sindar wake up naked. Where is it? Hold on. I'll just cut this out. Sindar wakes up naked.
Right.
And then a little bit later, I mean, you can see some groin there. They just got like some
has a
shading.
leg out.
Here, Christine's right here. Christine, that's nudity, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, very nudity, right?
That's a nude man in
That's
this
a
children's
nude man,
comic.
right? Yeah. Okay. We got verification.
Confirmation from our partners.
There's like Mons pubis right
Yeah.
There's Mons pubis. Thank you, Christine. We medically accurate man. That is like an anatomical study of Witterquick.
Mons Witterquick.
The comic book is a little racier than the cartoon.
They say there's a couple dams, I think, or I think I caught a couple dams.
Maybe someone says hell or something like that. There is. We'll get there in just a moment.
But
anyway,
I did like this panel too, where the two of them, like when they. Oh, you're not even to the end of the story yet. Get to the end of the story.
Anyway, they eventually the demon is able to say like, "Hey, there's a reason she's imprisoned," and Sindar is the one who's like, "Hey, I think there's a reason she's in prison," and they both have to work and put their powers together to seal her back in the mountain. And then they're sort of briefly like,
they get a little buddy moment where they have their
moment.
arms around each other and everything. It's really nice.
They're like both exhausted and one's helping the other up. And then the sleep demon's like, "Boy, you must be great friends." And they're like, no. But this is the sleep demon guy is also the thing that I'm like, what is off about this comic? One is that you don't really see Prismos. Everything is kind of happening in these big primary colored voids. Other thing that's happening in this comic book is that there aren't just like weird monsters showing up every issue.
Yeah.
Like that was part of the joy of the cartoon. It's just like, who designed this character and why are they so off model for the rest of the show? Like that was just part of the pleasure of the cartoon. We are now 4 issues into a 6-issue run, and we get our first like weird beastie. A little disappointing. We then get to Visionaries number 5. This is part 1 of a planned, I would assume, 4-part arc.
I'm
because
looking right now. There's 4 stones. Yeah.
There's 4 stones, and the remaining 2 issues of the comic book, they get 1 stone in each.
Earth, air, fire, and water.
This is the one where Merklin summons them all back to Iron Mountain, Darkling Lords and Visionaries, and says, y'all have to work together to get these stones that represent the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water. We have to... if brought together, they can do great things, and if they don't, then something bad's gonna happen.
And he doesn't specify.
He doesn't specify. The bad thing that's gonna happen is he's gonna fade away.
He's gonna die. And
he implies that like Prismos is also doomed, but we get no information about that.
In the context of the comic, if you hadn't seen the cartoon, you'd be like, so?
Yeah.
Like in the cartoon, he is an important figure.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get the feeling he's holding things together. This is the first time he's even hardly talked to them.
Yeah.
He didn't even really have an opinion on the thing that was going to blow up and cause the end. He told them not to, but he didn't like go out of his way to make them stop setting off that bomb.
Issue number 1, you get some panels that are like, here's Merklin, here's his face.
He's our guy.
But like, then we really have to get to issue number 5 where you're getting like a full Merklin in a panel again. And not just sort of like his face appearing on the side of a mountain. So anyway, they go, well, sources of great power, that sounds good to us. So the Darkling Lords go along with the mission for nefarious reasons. The Visionaries go for noble reasons. They end up seeking the same stones. They are guided by like spirit. It's like overly complicated.
I also have a panel when he's telling them about this. Darkstorm is thinking to himself, this old fool has to be insane to tell us this. Because he's telling them, if you combine these, it will be the most powerful thing in the world. And so even Darkstorm's like, what the fuck? You realize what we do, right?
Right. This is giving the thief your PIN number.
Yeah.
You get the feeling that there is some other twist in the story that we, the readers, don't know yet, and we'll never know.
And we'll never know.
It got ended early. But this is the one where they go to find the Earth Stone, which is lodged in a tree, which is not Earth, but it is brown. So I guess that's good enough.
It has roots go into the earth. The tree is making the ground fertile.
Yes, there is a highly indigenous coded tribe of people who worship this tree, and they have been thriving since the Age of Magic came along, unlike most of the rest of Prismos. And it's because they have this gem-infused tree that is super fertile. Galadria and not Galadria and who's the bear?
Cryotech. No.
Yeah, it's Cryotech.
Cryotech, yeah.
So Galadria and Cryotech are on the mission. They have sex.
They do. They just flat out have sex.
They have this whole little meet cute where they set a campfire, and she's like, "I didn't know that you were such a good cook." And then he's just sort of like, "There's a lot of things.
There's a lot. I'm full of surprises." And she replies, "I bet you are."
There's like a moment where she's like, "Oh no, what if the food is bad? Men are so sensitive. I'll have to pretend the food is good." And then she's like, "Oh wow, you're actually a gourmet chef on top of being the hunkiest guy in the Knights." And he's like, "Yeah, I sure am." And then at the very next panel, they're just like sleeping
next to each other.
What's the caption that it like implies something kind of coded?
Good food, good company. After a good day's ride leads to the leads at last to a night of good night's sleep. And sleep is bolded.
Yeah.
The word sleep is bolded.
A good day's ride. Okay. So it's like, it is very clear to anyone who is not a very young child that in between panels, these two had sex, and good for them.
Yeah, I mean, they've hinted at it all through. Maybe this is canonical, and this is like, and then in later episodes of the show, when they're flirting, this has already happened.
Well, I think there is one of the later episodes he does just sort of admit his feelings for her, and they become an item.
It's multiple episode thing that happens. Yeah.
So they do keep that characterization.
So somebody told Conway that.
Anyway, the thing you need to know about indigenous tribes is that they're greedy and selfish, and they want the land all for themselves.
Right.
Which is the message of this issue.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Darkling Lords who have followed them there are like, well, fuck it. We'll just steal the stone. And they do. And then they set the tree on fire. And then Galadria uses her healing powers.
Yeah, you didn't get to that part. The one important thing that happens in this issue is that Galadria and Viralina get totems.
Yeah.
Finally. And it's really funny because they support each other in this. Like, Galadria goes, "Hey, my friend Viralina and I, who hate each other otherwise, it's a little. I have it. Viralina and I should have the same level of power as the men. For once, I agree with Galadria." And you gave the man magical staffs. What will you give us? And he right away says, "The point is well raised." I give you...
The point is well raised is totally what your boss says before they fail to give you a raise to put you on the same level as your male coworkers.
Or when they realize, there might be an HDR problem here.
I love your passion, and I hear you, and I think you're making a lot of good points, and I think we'll circle back. Anyway, he gives them shields.
And with shields, which are way more useful than the stupid staffs.
It's true. The staffs are... I've complained enough about the staffs.
The toys in the cartoons never had these, but might think that maybe it would have happened if it was more popular.
So Viralina has the power of disease, and when they set the tree on fire, she also is just like, by the way, bitches, bang.
And she just makes everybody sick.
She just makes everybody sick. And then Galadria, who has just been fighting and is exhausted, is like, but with my last ounce of energy, I'm going to selflessly heal the tree and all the people here. And they're like, wow, white person, you really taught us how to be selfless.
Yeah. And she even gives them a lecture about how all these other people are suffering and you're not sharing your bounty with them. Yeah.
This is the person who argues for manifest destiny by like, you do understand that like indigenous tribes were killing each other, right?
Yeah, they were at war.
They were at war all the time. It's not like it's just us. Pretty odious. Not a very good issue. But
Africans used to enslave other Africans.
Yeah, Yes. This is absolutely this line of argument.
Yeah.
However, there is a sex scene in this comic book for children, so
true.
who's to say if it's good or bad?
Yeah.
And then we finally get to issue 6. We have now 2 separate pairs of Darkling Lords and Visionaries going after a different gem. This is the gem of air, and this is where we get to meet sexy bird people. And if you furries were like, hey, why do we have a whole cartoon about people turning into animals and none of the animal stuff is sexy? I got great news for you. There's sexy bird ladies.
Unfortunately, they're not really bird ladies. They are ladies who have fashioned wings to help them fly. They don't grow out of their backs.
You know what? Don't go to a furry convention and
They
just
don't
go
have
like, you know
beaks.
you're not really a fox, right?
No. They don't have beaks. They don't have feathers.
No, it's true. They're not. They're
basically
particularly
naked
furry.
women.
They're naked women with wings.
With wings.
And again, very deep V cleavage.
Bikinis, metal bikinis. They look like they're made out of coins.
That's right. They're classic, what it would be like Cleopatra era.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I guess it's supposed to be like chainmail, but it looks like coins.
Yeah.
They look like He-Man characters.
They're sexy, exotic
There are bird
ladies with
people in
wings.
He-Man, I think, actually. I'm pretty sure.
At any rate, we have Arzon, who is the eagle visionary.
Who we made a point like that maybe Arzon's hanging out with birds.
So this is actually also worth bringing up. The comics way more than the cartoons, because you have these thought bubbles, which the cartoons don't have. The comics constantly have people, after they turn into animals, go, it kind of feels like I'm still a bear. Like the bear that I turned into is still in my head. It's got to be something to think about, because I was just like scouting around like a fox and it felt right, and it kind of feels like the fox is still in my head. And so very clearly something that's hinted at in the cartoons and something the comics were really latched onto as something interesting is this sort of like blending of egos between the human side and the animal side.
You were calling it like the Animorphs effect.
Yes.
When we were talking about, yeah. Which is something I wasn't really familiar with, but I took your word for it.
This is classic Tobias from Animorphs, red-tailed hawk. Anyway, we're not talking about a red-tailed hawk. We're talking about sexy bird ladies. And Arzon, once again, has to teach these people how to be like kind and selfless. This is basically the same plot as issue number 5, except this time it has sexy bird ladies and they're flying around. And they get the gift of the wind gem because even like it's everyone gets sick, and then
Verlina makes everybody very, very, very sick.
And this time, because Galadriel isn't there, he just uses his staff of knowledge to be like, oh, I think those flowers down in that valley will save everyone
from the magical disease.
So, and he just kind of like dumps flowers in the air, and then suddenly like everyone, it's like a area of effect spell. Everyone is suddenly healed, which is good when you have a party that is down. Like you want that nice area effect healing spell. I've been playing a lot of Grandia. That's a big issue with Grandia is positioning and getting that area effect healing.
It at once seems like Verlina's power is too powerful because she like makes a whole city sick.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go away. She's going to kill them all.
Yeah.
Which is more than we ever see any of the other powers. They usually stop after a little while. Or they stop because they run out of power because they have to keep dipping it in Merlin's.
She explicitly says that anyone who gets sick through my power will be dead within an hour.
Yeah. So so it's good that flowers can stop it.
Once again, we're about to talk about Transformers versus Visionaries, and that Viralina is the leader of the Darkling Lords. So you have to think that the writer of Transformers versus Visionaries, which we'll get to, was able to was reading the Marvel comics as well as the cartoon. So that is the 6-issue run. If you know how to poke around online for old comic book scans, you can find this. You can read it in an afternoon. It's bad. Don't.
Drop me an email. I'll send them to you.
Yeah, exactly. But this is not the last comic they made. We will now jump ahead to 2014. Transformers versus Visionaries. Gabe, you're more familiar with them than I. What's the whole IDW thing?
So IDW is a company that sort of just bought the rights to a bunch of stuff, as far as I know it. And a lot of it seems stupid. It seemed like a stupid thing. They were taking old things like Visionaries that just weren't very good.
If you were someone who had like a YouTube channel about like the totally rad 80s, then like half of the things you made videos on got bought by IDW to turn into comic book series. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers,
Did they do the really? I have to look this up real quick. Did they do that crazy? Christine, you read it.
What?
They did Sonic the Hedgehog.
Did IDW do the Snagglepuss and Flintstones comics that were weirdly adult? I have to look this up because this is actually important. People,
IDW did Star Trek stuff. They did Back to the Future comics. They did. I'm on literally the Wikipedia page for list of IDW publishing publications. Every single letter gets its own little section because they did so many. Like Edward Scissorhands. You know, so this is like Event Horizon. We are going to...
Those are pretty good. I just started reading those. Event Horizon prequel. It was kind of cool.
We are going to license something you recognize, and at some point, someone is going to be walking through a comic book shop going like, I don't know what to get, and then they're going to see an Event Horizon comic book on the rack and be like, you know, an Event Horizon is kind of a fucking cool movie. I guess I should get that. And then... that is the IDW method. It's pretty cynical, but like the stuff they produce is actually pretty good, according to Gabe.
Yes. I read their Ninja Turtle comic, which I really liked up until the end of Sophie Campbell's run, which is a lot of issues. And it has this very good balance of what old fans would expect, because it retells a lot of those stories, what children could deal with, but then it's also adult. Like, there'll be really heavy shit happening and really violent stuff happening sometimes, but not in a way that, like, you couldn't give it to your teenager to read. And they'll have, like, a whole issue that's just about Casey Jones and April dealing with their relationship falling apart. So they take it really seriously. And they hire interesting creatives who all end up getting then taken by DC and Marvel. Like, they'll set up... Sophie Campbell did all this amazing stuff on Ninja Turtles, and she got picked up to do... I think it was... I want to say it was Harley Quinn comics. I don't remember. If my friend Blake was here, he would tell me. But yeah, so they all get picked up to do stuff. So it's sort of like a training ground. It's got a little bit of the good that was Roger Corman.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if it's like a Roger Corman kind of
these really cynical things.
Yes. But we know if we spend this much money on this property, we will get this return.
Yeah. But then they bring in creative people who want a chance to try to do something new. Mm-hmm. So what I've read, I've read the Ninja Turtle crossovers with He-Man were very silly but fun. The Ninja Turtle crossovers with the real Ghostbusters were surprisingly interesting, and they had different artists do each issue, so it was like interesting to look at on top of that. I haven't read any of the Transformers or G.I. Joes.
So Transformers versus Visionaries, it's a 6-issue run. Once again, I only read the first issue because I know nothing about the Transformers. I saw the first 2 Michael Bay movies, and that is the sum total of my Transformers knowledge.
I wasn't allowed to play with Transformers, so I don't know a lot. I saw them as an adult.
From the first issue of this run, though, it kind of feels like it is picking up after some other thing happened,
which
in some
never
other comic.
happened. And if they would have, that's my exact note. If there would have been a Visionaries comic that reinvented Visionaries to this degree that this does, and went on for 10 issues or so, this may have been a better comic.
Yeah.
But instead we have this whole event that we never saw, and we're in a version of the universe where the Visionaries and the Transformers live in the same universe, so this isn't crossing over with, I believe not, the Transformers comic at all. This is its own little contained thing. But they've made so many changes to the characters that...
the character designs are totally different. It's been updated for 2014, so it's like racially more diverse.
Yeah, actually, I had a problem with that, and it's not the problem that most people will think. For all I care, they could all be black, but they made the one character that I think is black, which is Recon, a white guy. I feel like
I'm gonna have to go back to the tapes to hear your argument for right.
It's because he's voiced by a black man, and his hair looks slightly curly. It's not very detailed, and he just has... His features look more black to me. His skin is not black. Mm-hmm. But that was always my thing in my head. I'm like, oh, cool. So someone else saw this, right? No, they didn't think that guy was black. They made him white. But yeah, Leoric is this like cool black dude with these like blonde dreadlocks. Mm-hmm.
They have this kind of like
their armor
barbarian kind of aesthetic more than like a sci-fi aesthetic.
And the interesting thing about their armor is that they only have the decal on one boob. Yeah. Or pec, I guess, but it's on one side instead of in the middle of their chest. Yeah. Which is, I think, what it was with those toys that we talked about when we were talking about hologram toys. There was something that you had to rub to see if it was wood, fire, or water. And it was basically a rock, paper, scissors game. And I think theirs was on the right. So feel like that was a weird. Anyway, I don't think the writer really cared either way about any of these characters.
So let's go over the people who. Oh, real quick, I did not mention. I said I was going to. Issue 5 of Visionaries had a different inker. Dave Simons inked issue 5 of Visionaries. He also did Forgotten Realms, Ghost Rider, Savage Sword of Conan.
There's Conan guy.
He's an inker. He's a Conan guy. That's it. Okay, so now we've covered everyone who worked on the original run of Visionaries. Transformers versus Visionaries was written by Magdalene Viziago, who did like 8 issues of Rick and Morty. She's done a bunch of superhero comics like Miss Marvel, Superman. There was like a JLA Doom Patrol special thing that she did. I haven't read anything else.
I looked through it and I hadn't read anything she had written, but
the art is credited to Fico Ossio, who mostly is like a DC superhero guy. Action Comics, Batman and Robin, Teen Titans Academy, Aquaman. Colors are done by David Garcia Cruz, who's done colors for just a bunch of IDW stuff like Micronauts, Street Fighter Cross G.I. Joe, Dungeons and Dragons. So like just it's 80s fucking 80s radical 80s shit.
Yeah.
IDW. Letters by Sean Lee. Sean Lee's entire career has basically been as an IDW letterer with 146 issues of TMNT, 68 of Sonic the Hedgehog, a bunch of Judge Dredd. There's also letters in this comic series done by Gilberto Lazcano, who is another IDW person who did Ghostbusters, Star Trek, G.I. Joe, that sort of thing. So that's the crew behind this. The character designs are very different. Viralina has the classic like contemporary video game interpretation of like a Viking woman thing where she has the paint across her eyes and she has like the 3 big dreadlocks coming out and then she's got the shaved head on the side and all that. They did one thing that what was her name? Who wrote this?
Magdalene.
One thing that I backed out of my notes. Here we go. One thing that Magdalene Viziago did that was vindicating is she's instantly like, there's 4 Visionaries, there's 4 Darkling Lords. That we don't need fucking 14 of these dinguses running around. It's a comic book. These are we're not going to be able to fit all these stupid characters.
And same thing with the Transformers. There's not a lot of Transformers in this, and none of the big name Transformers are in this either.
So again, I don't know anything about Transformers, but I have heard of like Bumblebee and Megatron and Optimus Prime, and I was waiting for them, and I'm just sort of like, who are these chuckleheads?
Yeah.
Also, the Transformers look more human than I thought Transformers looked.
Some of the cartoons do look like that than more recent cartoons. I have seen that sort of humanoid look. It's easier to animate, I think.
Anyway, the setup is that Merklin, who also has an entirely different look
shaven-headed, very villainous looking, got the facial tattoos, shit like that.
But also, sexy facial tattoos.
Very live kind of sexy.
Yes, exactly.
Like, male stripper sexy.
Yeah, very much so. He has cast a spell. Prismos has gone to shit. So he cast a spell to transport the Visionaries and Darkling Lords and himself and their castle. Currently, they all live in one castle, to a new land. He did some detection or whatever and said, oh, great, there's no life on this planet. This will be our new planet. We'll colonize it. Turns out there was life there. It was robots.
And robots don't show up as life on whatever thing he was
What is
using.
the name of the planet of Megatron? Cybertron. So the thing about Cybertron is having some sort of global warming crisis, some sort of climate change allegory where they're like peak oil, but they're peak energy cubes or whatever they're called. And they're just sort of like, we have finally gotten our planet under order, and then these refugees come, and we don't know if we actually can take care of them, and there's something suspicious about the way they're acting. And the setup, at least in the first issue that I read, is like the Knights of the Magical Light want to work with the Transformers and say, like, we will live as part of your community and we will contribute to it. And the Darkling Lords are like, no, let's conquer them. They aren't even alive. They're robots.
It's even more than that. It's not let's conquer them. It's let's genocide them and take their planet. It's Viralina and Merklin are the two that have this plan and then drag others in with them.
So there's this implication that like we have reached a sort of equilibrium where the Spectral Knights and the Darkling Lords have some sort of uneasy truce
Yeah.
that has them all on the same side. And then the first issue of this crossover event ends with that schism starting again because Viralina takes the steps to be like, no, we're going to genocide this planet. And meanwhile, Leoric is like, no, wait, this isn't my plan.
Yeah.
And I only read the first.
I mean,
issue.
it goes on from there. There's a thing that they've put, Merklin's put some sort of like magical seed in the earth, and it turns out that their magic basically eats away at Transformers. So it's like acid to them, sort of. So like they touch a magic thing and their arm starts to deteriorate right away. So they can't have magic is what the idea is that they just absolutely can't have the magic. If they do, it will kill the Transformers. I swear I've heard this exact story in something else.
I mean, this is also a reflection of the way Prismos works, which is there is apparently a cycle, according to the comic series, of Age of Technology, Age of Magic, one banishes the other.
Yeah.
It's, when technology works, it's not just that like technology is working so people don't need magic anymore. It is the idea that like magic is banished while technology is in charge, and technology is banished while magic is in charge.
Yeah.
So they're taking that dynamic to the pure technology planet, making the Visionaries pure magic, I suppose.
And basically, Merklin had this whole plan where he's put a seed in that's going to basically explode in the center of the planet and make it all magic and kill off everybody. And Viralina is in on this, but secretly, Merklin actually wants. I can't remember his name. One of the other villains, because
like a Kravex or a
it's not Kravex.
Sindar.
Sindar is like this weird monkey character in this. Like he's got like he's sitting
He's
around.
Beast because he's supposed to be like a genius,
Yeah.
but he's also animalistic.
Yeah, and
So he's Beast from X-Men is what I should say, yeah.
Merklin is actually sexist and actually wants a man running things, so he's secretly sort of grooming one of the other Darkling Lords. I don't remember who it was. It's not Mordred, who tries to join the good guys at one point, and most of his part in the comic is he and Witterquick are chained up and being tortured while shirtless, and they have some deep V crotches.
Oh, very
going
good.
on. Yeah.
This is a Visionaries comic tradition.
Yeah.
Is like, we need the beefcake.
A lot of beefcake. And the blah blah blah. One thing that leads to another. The poor Transformers just cannot trust these people. The Visionaries have this plan that they put into effect, where it turns out that Recon's the one that he wants to have in charge.
Okay,
but it turns out that one of the Visionaries, which one is the Fox Man?
Feral.
Feral is the wolf. Ektar has joined the other side, but it's a ruse, and he's really trying to get out. And they blah blah blah. They do that, then they blow up to blow up the seed that's going to destroy the planet. They create a different seed that's going to counteract it, and Kravex or somebody bursts it open, so it's cut open, so it can't work. So Galadriel grabs it and uses her power of healing on the bomb, and so when the bomb goes off, a healing wave goes off, and a bunch of the guys have been stabbed and bleeding to death at this point. Like Leoric's he's going to die, and the bomb goes off, and it actually cleanses everything, and now they can all live in peace because technology and magic can live in the same universe. And it kind of ends with some guys are in prison, some guys aren't. Like nobody's ever going to trust Merklin again, and one of the Transformers is like, maybe we could learn magic. And then the last panel is like Merklin is steadily making a new, like in his prison cell, he's making a new cauldron.
He's Merklin. He's got nothing but time.
Yeah. And then that's the end.
All right. Well,
It was a really good idea for a story that, again, I think really would have worked if you would have had a post-Civil War Transformers comic that you could have read about and a Visionaries comic that was this version of the characters. And then, now they're mashing up these two comics I like for their final issue.
I would also imagine that a lot of those Sunbow cartoons ended up with an IDW comic that crosses over with the most popular one, Transformers.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that they didn't do any other Visionaries, honestly. I guess it just isn't a popular enough
It really
thing.
must be the least popular.
When I saw there was Visionaries versus Transformers, I'm like, there must also be Visionaries, even if it only lasted 5 issues. But no, that was it.
Just that is not going to catch someone's eye as they walk past.
Unfortunately, the 5 of us who care.
We can still, an archive of our own is still there for us. We can do this. We can be the change we want to see in the world.
And there was talk of Hasbro when they were like, "Oh, Transformers made money, G.I. Joe made some money. We're going to start to do," and Marvel is kicking ass with this whole shared universe. We're going to do the Hasbro shared universe, and in all of the news items about that, Visionaries was included. So it never got very far,
Right.
but there was a idea of a Visionaries movie at some point
Yeah.
in the 2010s, I want to say.
I don't think anyone necessarily, when they made Iron Man in 2008, was thinking like, and eventually this is going to lead to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly.
But at some point, someone had to compose a master list of how all the properties would fit into a shared universe, and Guardians of the Galaxy would be like, well, the good thing about this is going to be counter-programming.
Yeah.
And it turns out they just got the right guy to do Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was a big success or whatever. Visionaries, even compared to what Guardians of the Galaxy was before the James Gunn movie, much more obscure.
Yeah.
Much more unlikely.
Marvel had reintroduced the Guardians of the Galaxy at that point. It was a reasonably popular comic by that
Oh,
time.
okay, then. I didn't even know
it was
that thing.
super obscure, and they built it back. I don't remember the name.
Do you
of
think they built it back up as part of a long-term plan to build to the movie?
I think that it was building back up as just part of a long-term plan. From what I understand, and I might be wrong, is that they had Civil War happening in the comics, and they wanted to have a similar event happening in space with their space characters. So they wrote the Annihilation crossover, which is much better than Civil War, and the Guardians of the Galaxy become the Guardians of the Galaxy over the course of Annihilation.
Got it.
And then they got their own comic.
They were a very convenient bunch of characters for the plot they wanted to do.
I don't think it was that they had a movie in mind at the time. I think it was just that they wanted to have another thing. So if people were like, I don't know what the fuck's happening in this Civil War thing that I have to read 30 issues of some other comic I don't care about, they wanted to have a space thing.
Of course, the actual reality is like no one fucking wants a He-Man movie.
Yeah,
No one-
one just came out and it looked reasonably amusing and it looked very James Gunn-esque from the trailers I
They
saw.
really wanted you to think it was.
And it might be the biggest money loser of all time, they're saying.
Really?
It might actually break the record.
They really spent that much money on
It was
that?
it was almost $200 million or something like that.
Unbelievable.
I just read a thing saying that if it loses, it had one of the biggest drops from first week to second week, which was already bad because it was already second or third place.
Yeah.
I think that YouTube independent cartoon that was only showing through.
Oh, that's right. It was like the 9th episode of a series.
I think that outsold it, but definitely on per
screen.
theater. Yeah, per screen. Yeah, it's going to be a huge flop.
Yeah. And as well it should. Why
I mean,
did
if
they
Jared
think-
Leto wasn't in it, I might have seen it on video or streaming.
Yeah.
It might have been cute. I don't know, but Jared Leto was in it, so I wasn't really.
But like I think now that we are sort of coming towards the end of our limited series here, Wizard Jail, it is time to say like if we can't get an IDW comic book series, we are never getting a fucking Visionaries movie.
It's not happening. They went, yeah. I mean, they won't even do a cutesy version like they did with Thundercats. Got like multiple reboots, and the reboots all sort of failed. But enough people liked them that they tried again, doing something different.
Yeah.
He-Man's done that a million times.
Yeah.
He-Man is very different every time they reboot it. Ninja Turtles, same stories, completely different approach to the stories. These are things that have legs. Visionaries just doesn't have legs.
It does not. There was never the fan base to stoke, and you can't get new fans for something like this. It's just not going to happen unless this podcast becomes wildly successful.
I have 3 people subscribed on YouTube.
3 people subscribed on YouTube?
Yeah.
Whew, all right. So when they make
we're
the
going to be
Visionaries
making
movie,
money off just the YouTube.
I guess what are our cameos going to be? Because we're going to be known like in all the
We could be
articles
we could
as
be-
like the people who brought Visionaries
we could be
back.
the people who are complaining at the meetings. You know, how the
Yeah,
Visionaries
yeah.
are always having meetings with the Garden Club. We're the Garden
Yeah,
Club.
we're the Garden Club. Ooh, I hope I get like some like high fashion, crazy Logan's Run ass fucking costume.
Yeah. What are those Hunger Games? Hunger Games costumes.
Yeah, I got to get a Hunger Games hairstyle for this, or it's no go.
So
That's all the Visionaries comics.
now we have toys.
There are toys as well.
And-
And before we get to the toys, real quick, there is a fan-made tabletop role-playing game of Visionaries.
Oh, I didn't know this.
If you search for Visionaries Knights of the Magical Light game, you will get listings for this. It is fan-made. It is not available anywhere online that I can see. You cannot buy it used or anything. Someone out there has it. Someone out there made it. I don't know what it is.
If this was a more popular podcast, we would like do a live stream of us playing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, tell your friends to subscribe, and that might happen someday. I'll drive back to Chicago and we'll set it up with some cameras.
So, comic books, games, toys. What were the toys like?
Well, to start, here's one of the toys.
Oh
It's for
my
you.
god! Oh my god! Holy shit! Gabe just handed me an action figure. This is smaller than I thought it would be. This
You know
is
what?
Beautiful.
You know what? At the first episode, I complained. I told you they're bigger than GI Joes, and then I got that. It is
It's
GI
not.
Joe.
It's GI Joe. Is this Sindar?
It's Sindar.
Oh, I was able to name him. Sindar's looking a little different here. He's looking a little. He looks like Stacy Keach.
Yeah, he looks like Stacy Keach with the haircut that the one Evil Krypton has in Superman 2.
Yes, he's a little bit General Zod, a little bit Stacy Keach.
Ooh, or what's his name? The actor Mandy Patinkin. He looks a little like Mandy Patinkin looks these
pull
days.
out my flashlight on my phone so I can like properly see.
Yeah,
this hologram effect.
so I don't necessarily need to put this on, but I ran into this at a pop culture store.
Oh,
They had
man.
3 Sindars. One, that was the only ones they had. They had one Sindar who had all of his stuff. That was like $50.
Mm-hmm.
They had one Sindar who had nothing, and including he just was a body. He didn't have his chest plate. That was $10. This one was $20. He has a chest plate. I figured it was worth $20 to get you one of these.
Oh my god!
Because these are actually really expensive online.
I am like genuinely very excited to have this guy.
I know it's not
hanging out.
Kravex, but yeah. So the only toys they made,
But
and
Sindar is the most important Darkling Lord in the comics, so there you go.
there you go. Yeah, so they made toys out of Arzon, Sindar.
And it is, I need to say, it is basically a G.I. Joe body. It has that, like, you can feel the rubber bands
Yep.
inside the limbs. It is, like, lightly articulated. It can stand on its own, which is nice. That means it's going to be...
If he would have had
on my
his
desk.
staff, it would have been easier to stand him up.
But I can get him to sort of just, like, there he is. And it is the kind of hologram where when you rotate it, the hologram moves, so you're like...
It's a little 3D.
You're getting a slight perspective shift. You don't get all the way around the gorilla's head, but you get a little bit of 3D movement. The illusion is convincing. I thought these toys were lame as fuck, and now that I see one, I kind of see that this hologram is kind of cool.
Yeah, and the holograms on their staffs were much bigger and cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And the holograms on the toys were really cool. I only had a couple of those, but I swore I wasn't allowed to play with G.I. Joes, so I didn't have any, and I swore these were at least half size bigger than G.I. Joes. I thought that these were He-Man size. That was in my
No,
brain.
yeah.
They're G.I. Joe size.
They're G.I. Joe size. Maybe it's the staff, the illusion.
And I think I just didn't have G.I. Joes, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had Star Wars guys who were slightly smaller, just slightly.
That's right. This is slightly bigger than those. Were they
Kenners,
Star
yeah.
Wars? Yeah.
It's just slightly. But yeah, so I was a little like, wow, this is really little. But yeah, so they made toys out of all the guys, none of the girls. I think we mentioned this.
Yep.
There's an Arzon toy, there's a Sindar toy, there's a Kravex. I had the Kravex.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Did you screech when you played with it?
No, I didn't. There's a Cryotech. I had Witterquick and Kravex were the two I had. I liked Witterquick because he had his helmet looks like a High-Lie helmet, basically.
Yeah.
Lexor, Leoric, and Darkstorm. They all got figures with staffs. They had a crappy weapon, and they had helmets. And I really wish he had his helmet. The helmet really... Something about helmets, toys with helmets, is really cool. I don't know why. And so then there were only 4 toys, and there were only 4 vehicles on the show. There was the Capture Chariot, which came with Farrell. That was the big good guy toy. They had some parts that came off. There was the Dagger Assault Vehicle with Recon. That was the big bad guy toy. My friend had that one, so I did play with that one. Then there was the 2 smaller ones, which are what I had, which was the Lancer Cycle with Ektar and the Sky Claw with Mortrid. So I had 2 bad guys, 2 good guys, and 2 vehicles. It was enough to play with, especially because in my brain, these were as big as Ninja Turtles. And I
Right.
was just doing the same thing. They are not as big as Ninja Turtles.
No, Ninja Turtles were hefty. They had width as well
You could
as
hurt
height.
your friend if you threw a Ninja Turtle toy.
I
at him.
had stitches on my eyelid because my sister threw my Ninja Turtle motorcycle at my face.
You can't see in this picture, but the really cool thing about the Lancer Cycle is on the top, there are 2 hands, like making a Goku,
That's right. The weird thing about the Lancer Cycle is that it's like hologram hands firing fireballs instead of a. Well, there's also a cannon.
Right, and then there's also a regular hologram that's a sticker on the side. But the cool thing about this hologram is it was see-through. So the hologram still worked, even though you would have Ektar inside of it.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. That's
It's pretty
neat.
cool.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it anywhere. It's the only one that did that. And also, it had its action. And toys always had one action. Is you would push a little trigger, and it had a little bump out thing. And because I think all children do this, you see how much would that hurt if I did that to myself? And it turns out quite a bit. It was a pretty strong little mechanism, and it hurt quite a bit when you would hit.
Yeah.
And so I learned not to do that anymore.
I had the Ripley Power Loader Aliens toy with the little missile, and I definitely
Shot yourself with the missile?
I hurt my sister.
Oh, okay.
This is all.
I didn't have siblings.
We were all hurting it. This is why you don't want siblings, is because we just damage each other with our toys.
Technically, I have a half brother, and the off chance he listens to this.
It's very funny that like these toys are really the driving force for everything else.
Yeah.
There's a cartoon because that would enable
Would
toys.
sell toys.
There's a comic book because that will drive people to recognize the toys. This is all in service of these toys, of the Stacy Keach here. Like this is like Titus era Stacy Keach, where he's just sort of like the grumpy dad.
Yeah.
This is so. I'm like, this is so funny.
Did you remember when I said, "Hey, I can't buy you something because I already bought you something"? That was the thing I bought you.
That's so funny. I should have surprised you with something.
Oh no, don't worry about that. I was happy it wasn't one of the really crappy ones.
Yeah.
Because at least Sindar's funny.
If it was Lexor, then
Yeah,
I
like,
might be giving it back to you.
Yeah. But no Kravex.
Sindar's great. He loves the little animals.
Do you have any
All of my toys
unicorns?
are yours. I have no unicorns. I have a Wolfman and I have a little Michael Myers. And they are both from you. I'm a collector guy, but I'm not a toy guy.
Well, we have to get you some sort of unicorn that's the right size that he can put his arm on.
I will keep an eye out because I feel like there's probably enough unicorn toys floating around.
And
out
My Little
there in
Ponies are
thrift
too
shops.
big. I'm pretty sure they're either too small or too big, depending on which kind of My Little Pony you found. I'm remembering My Little Ponies were about this big, and then
feel
there's
like-
little tiny ones.
Yeah, maybe the tiny one is too small. The unicorn.
He could
has to
cradle
be-
it if you found a My Little Pony.
He's a baby. It's
God,
a
Christine,
baby.
do we still have any of those My Little Ponies? No, we got rid of all. Okay. We used to get them in blind boxes when I first met Christine. And I got some rare one and I gave it to a friend. I sent it in the mail and he was so thankful.
Actually, real quick, I'm going to double check because we've talked basically about the entire pantheon of Visionaries.
Yeah.
This podcast is sort of now, because there's so little
Information
Fan-
other
well,
than the
fan
fan. There's a
anything.
fan site that has been out of it. I don't think anybody's updating the fan site, but someone's paying to keep it open.
I'm going to search again for Visionaries on Archive of Our Own and see when was the most recent fiction written. Yes, I agree to.
I don't
these
think
terms.
it's only available on YouTube. As if we're recording this, it's still
That's
only
right.
on YouTube. Nobody has bought it for rerunning on Amazon Prime slop streaming, you know. And Shout Factory hasn't reissued it. That was another surprise. Shout Factory reissues every 80s cartoon, even the ones nobody remembers.
I wonder if the fact that this was a co-production with TMS means that it's slightly different than licensing G.I. Joe.
Well, then there should be a fucking manga of it.
That is really the next step.
That would be great, actually.
Takashi Miike needs to make a Visionaries movie.
Honestly.
Now that he is in his adaptation
Yeah.
era.
I mean, if the Takashi Miike who made Ninjas? Oh, fuck. What was that? He made a great kids movie that was based on a comic that it was about ninjas. Has exclamation point.
I have really good news for you, Gabe.
Yeah.
June 8th, 2026, someone wrote a Visionaries Knights of the Magical Light fiction.
Well,
These people are still out here.
okay. Well, maybe they'll find us someday.
April, the title of this fic is If a Dolphin Loved a Bear, Where Would They Live?
It's a good question.
Revolutionaries, Brave New World. This is a crossover between Transformers.
So somebody liked that comic and wanted more of it.
Visionaries. Yeah, this kind of maybe looks like it's an extension of that comic. So there have been 5 fics written this year, about one a month. In 2026 of Visionaries.
And there hasn't been a Visionaries podcast from us, at least.
Yeah.
In that time.
So this is the coals are still hot, even if there's no flames left. Do you have any final thoughts about Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light?
I'm probably never going to revisit this ever again in my
I
life.
really am never. I can't overstate how much I'm never going to fucking watch this.
But I'll always have in the back of my mind when I see one at an antique store.
Yeah.
I'll always be like, should I get that?
Honestly, I have gotten more into animation and cartoons as part of doing this show. Like this is in partially as a result of doing this show, and then also just coincidentally I got more into it, and also like that's kind of why I even suggested doing the show in the first place. I think about Visionaries a lot. Like whenever I'm just watching some random shit, I'm always just like comparing it to Visionaries. Go, this had more money, this had less imagination, this had
Yeah.
But I had a great time doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not. We have no plans to like start a new miniseries, but like the thought in my head of like we could do another one of these.
Yeah. I'm paying out of pocket to keep these up on the internet. We might as well.
we could wizard jail. There's a lot of jails.
Yeah.
We could put ourselves back into jail. We could be recidivist offenders and find ourselves back in the system, back in the clink.
You heard it here first. We're going to do Savage Dragon. I'm going to make Patrick read 40-some issues of that comic that's still going, and the whole 2-season USA Network television show.
It's never going to happen. However, I have at a certain point, prompted by some like random details you've told me about Savage Dragon, I have on my own gone like, all right, but how horny does Savage Dragon get? So I've seen some of the juiciest panels that Savage Dragon has to offer. I'm never fucking reading my comic book game. But we'll find something maybe.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you can hear us on Genre Grinder. We maybe by the time you hear this, it's already up. We have a 2-part series on the underwater sci-fi horror movies of 1989. In addition to the many other episodes of Genre Grinder that we've worked on together. I have a podcast, 96 Greers, where me and my co-host Barry are watching every feature film with Judy Greer in the cast. As of this recording, the most recent episode we did is on a surprisingly good HIV dramedy from 2022 called 3 Months. I subscribe to Paramount Plus to watch that one. So like this is a committed movie podcast. It's good. It's good. We have a lot of fun. If you don't think that it's the kind of thing you would enjoy, I really think you should listen to it, and you might find that, oh, actually, this is a good movie podcast.
Are you going to do a special episode on her new commercials?
I am not going to do a special episode on new commercials, though we do have sort of a ancillary. We have a concept of like we should at some point do a bonus episode of sorts where we're like doing her TV appearances and stuff like that, and we might mention commercials at that point. I don't know, but. Gabe, do you have anything else?
You have the Hitchcock thing you're doing.
I have. Thank you, Gabe, very much. I am also doing Dial P for Podcasts, which is a year-long chronological journey through Alfred Hitchcock's film career. Once a month, the last day of every month, on the Directors Club podcast feed, I am releasing an episode where I watch 4 Alfred Hitchcock movies and talk about them solo. We are in America now. We have left Britain behind. We are in the 40s, the early 40s, Alfred Hitchcock trying to find his feet. The most recent episode that you will be able to hear will be talking about Mr. and Mrs. Smith. This is going to be Saboteur, Suspicion, and the one with the guy from The Third Man. Uncle Charlie. Shadow of a Doubt.
Shadow of a Doubt.
So this is an interesting stretch
A lot of people's
period.
favorite, actually.
Shadow of a Doubt and Suspicion are both like very heavy, dark, interesting movies. So check that out at Directors Club Podcast. The Bondsman is here.
He says we've made bail
We are now free.
of the wizard jail.
Visionaries, that's the magical light. Visionaries, magical powers they find. Powers of fight, strength, skill, and speed. Powers to accomplish the greatest of deeds. Visionaries, that's the magical light.
All the time.
Do you? Do you know what that is?
I'm familiar with. Is that Spanish Flea?
No,
no,
it's-
that Spanish Flea is da 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 da.
No,
What
it's-
is?
It's the Excite Bike.
Yes.
opening
Okay.
screen.
Yes. Do it. There's
Yeah.
like a weird like dwoot sound effect there.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I am familiar. Herb Albert wish he could.
Wishes.
He wish he could do Excite Bike. Okay.